Hey everybody, I'm actually going to tell some life stories, so my kids and grandkids, great grandkids will know about these, and they're pretty fun stories about life. And my life growing up was all about church and sports. That was it. We didn't have the internet growing up, didn't have cell phones. We played in the woods. We built tree houses, shot BB guns. Went hunting. Played a lot of ball. Was blessed to play all four sports for several years, for all four of the major sports, as well as when I was young. I played soccer too, but played baseball, basketball, ran track and football and soccer. And so I got to do all those things. And even in the high school level, at the highest level, got to play a lot of those sports. And dropped out football because basketball became much more important to me, and track, and kept those things going. Played baseball in varsity for a while, and then ended up for kind of putting my focus there on track and basketball when I got old. But I want to tell you a couple stories. I got a couple things here that's kind of cool. This right here is the glove I played with from the time I was 12 until I was 40 when I retired. Retired on a home run. I hit a home run and I dropped the bat. It was like the third inning, and touched first base and told the boys, I'm out. I'm going out on a home run. And so I hit it over the light pole, and I said, bye, I'm out. But actually, this was my dad's baseball glove, and I kept it. And he gave it to me when I was 12. He had been playing softball till he was in his 30s, and then decided to retire and just watch me play ball. And so when I was 12, I needed an upgrade, and this was super broke in, and I loved playing with his glove, and so I picked it up and I played with it all the way through my career from age 12 until age 40. Played high school baseball with it, played middle school ball with it and all that, and then kept on going in softball with it until I retired at age 40. But this is even cooler here. This is my great-grandfather's gloves. I've got my great-grandfather's infield glove and his catcher's mitt. He was a big baller and played at Rickwood Field, the oldest baseball field in the world. And this ball here is for Babe Ruth. No, it's not Babe Ruth. This baseball was the first home run that I ever hit over the fence. I still have it, yeah. I even have the smudge of where somebody wrote, "Way to go, Chris." Her name was Dell. She was a mom of one of the kids, and they played ball with us. And the reason I kept it at the time was because the guy that I hit the home run off of, his name was Spencer Romine. Well, if you were around Cullman, everybody knew who that was. He was a stud at every sport, and nobody hit home runs off him. Hardly anybody got a hit off him. And he ended up going to D1 college as a quarterback, and he was a quarterback for Duke. And he's super smart, though. I think he ended up as a doctor, and he went that direction instead of the sports direction. We all thought he'd be a pro everything. But at the time, he was basically unhittable. And it was approaching the All-Stars, and I didn't know if I'd make the All-Stars or not. I had been a leadoff batter, and I had been getting on base all the time, but there was a couple other really good kids on our team, and we were about middle of the pack, so we didn't know how many spots we would get, and so it looked in doubt that for me, I didn't think I would make it, but I think it was sealed over the next couple of weeks when Spencer Romine was going against us, and I was actually late for the game because I was at another school event that I was a part of, and raced to the game from that, and we were already behind by 5 points, and Spencer had thrown a shutout. Nobody had even gotten a hit on him, and he hurried up and got me in the lineup, and I went up to bat, and I remember I had no fear because I just didn't have fear of Spencer Romine. I was actually looking forward to best on best. I knew I'd gotten hits off everybody else that season. And so I just went right up and busted a double off of him and kind of got us going on a rally. And then in the 7th inning, when I faced him again, I only got to face him twice that game, I jacked it over the fence in center field off of Spencer Romine. and so I kept it. And then a couple of games later, the number one team in town came, and a guy named Eli Trimble, a left-handed pitcher that was about as good as Spencer, and he threw me a high inside fastball. You don't want to do that. And it was another ball. They couldn't find it. It went over the light poles and just kept going. And I think those two home runs, in addition to my outfield play, put me in the All-Stars, and I had a very good All-Star run, where I was a starter, and they ended up putting me as a power hitter after I'd been a leadoff the whole time. And so that's one of my favorite stories is the Spencer Romine home run, followed up by actually hit off Eli Trimble in a home run off him in a game where Cullman All-Star versus the other Cullman All-Star team, and late in the game there against him, took one deep, and so got an All-Star home run, which was pretty fun, and had a great series. But that was a great memory. Speaking of Cullman, I left Cullman when I was finishing the 8th grade. I actually worked out all summer with Vinemont's varsity high school football team. And I left Cullman after the 8th grade because, I had always been good at everything I had played sports-wise. And so for all you young guys out there, that you'll enjoy what you're going to hear next. And we got the newspaper clippings to prove it. My mom does. Isn't that funny? We kept up with that stuff. Like I said, sports and Jesus. That was what everything was about growing up. But I had been cut from every sport at Cullman, which made no sense because they used to have something called the President's Award, and that's where you would do president fitness test, to see how fit you were. They'd make you do a certain amount of pull-ups and set-ups and these little different things where you ran and did the 50-yard dash and dropped a block, pick it back up, put it down, this and that, checking all your agility and everything. I would get that every year, and I was always in the top 3 of the whole entire school and the whole class. So in the 8th grade especially, I thought, I had developed into a really good athlete. I had been an all-star player in baseball. I was good at every sport, and what I didn't understand was I kept getting cut. And I'd say, I don't know how this is possible, because some of these guys that are making the baseball team and track team are people that didn't compete well with me in the sports that I played. And certainly in the President's Award, which actually tests your real fitness, how fast you are, how high you can jump, and how strong you are. I beat them all in all of that. I was always in the top 3 listed in the entire class of 100 and some odd boys. And so I never understood what that was all about. I didn't understand politics and all that till later in life. And of course, Vinemont was a small school, and so of course politics didn't have anything to do with it. They needed bodies out there to play multiple sports, which worked out well for me. So after the 8th grade, actually in the 8th grade, one of my favorite stories, it was a revenge story. Coach Calvert cut me from, it was like the last straw for me. I said, I'm leaving Cullman if I don't make the track team, because I know I'm faster than everyone and than most everyone, and I know I can jump higher. We had a high jump contest in PE, and I won it. So I said, okay, well, if I can jump higher than everyone in the whole 8th grade, then why wouldn't I be on the 8th and 9th grade team as a high jumper? So coach said, all the teams already settled, and all that. And but he admitted that I had done well, and so he said, I'll tell you what, meet me after school, and if you can jump 5 feet, I was an 8th grader. He said, you jump 5 feet, you're on the team. If not, you're not on the team, but I'll let you run in races when we're at home, but you're not going to be technically on the travel team and part of the team. So I said, okay. So I met him after school, and he put it directly on 5 foot. He didn't put it on 4'6", 4'8", 4'10", let me warm up to 5 foot. Just put it right on 5 foot. And I was cold as ice. I didn't have the right athletic clothes or anything, and just wasn't prepared for that, because it just happened on the fly. And he put it directly on 5 foot, gave me 3 chances to clear it. And I did clear it. Actually, I pushed real hard off on the 3rd jump and pulled a hammy. And he said, better luck next year. Well, I'll never forget, I turned to Coach and I said, there won't be a next year. Next year, I'll be at Vinemont coming here to whip you at every single event that I'm going to be in. Because I will be on their team. And when we play you in the Classics, I'll whip you at every event. And, of course, he got a laugh out of that. But he didn't know I wasn't joking around. And I did take him up on his offer once I healed up on that little hammy. It wasn't a major hammy thing. I did run for Cullman for just the home games only, but he would put me in the slow heats. But I defiantly went into the fast heat, and just without being told, I just jumped up there and went in there with the fast heat on an event that I didn't even run, and ended up having one of the best times I'd ever had. And it wasn't enough to qualify for a first, second, or third. But he was shocked, and he said, Harrison, you're supposed to be in the slow heat, man. And I said, well, I competed with him. And he said, well, that's not the point. You always run the slow heat. That's the deal till you make the travel team. And so you have to go with the second group every time. And he said, but for the record, you did run that way faster than you ever have in practice. And I said, well, that's because I'm competing against the best. So I kept my word. I trained day and night. He didn't know. All I thought about was Coach Calvert for the next year. And I worked out 8 hours a day. I ran sprints. I jumped over everything I could jump over. I did leg presses. I bench pressed stuff. I played basketball 8 hours a day. Basketball and running, and I played every sport. And then I worked out with the Vinemont High School football team all summer long, the varsity. I ran with them doing 2-a-days. So you can imagine how that helped. And then I grew by 4 inches, which helped, while Coach Smothers at Vinemont was helping me with my coordination. And so by the time I got back to track season a year later, Coach Calvert was shocked to see me because I was extremely strong and tall and fast, athletic, and looked the part. I had the natural ability before, but now I had been training with people that knew what they were talking about. And the year before, Coach Calvert had been making fun of the county kids and not trying to get him in trouble. I love Coach Calvert. We have a good relationship now, and we give each other a hard time about all of this. But he was just kind of joking around to everybody. He'd say, oh man, those county kids, they'll come in here, they'll be wearing high tops and jeans, and they'll be over there smoking and chewing tobacco, and then they'll come out and race, and he said, there's a lot of rednecks in the county, and of course he wasn't lying. He was telling the truth. So when I got to the Vinemont group, I said, let me tell you what Coach of Cullman said about y'all. He said, y'all are a bunch of rednecks, and you wear high tops and jeans and smoke and chew tobacco and drink beers and go out and run. And I said, we ain't doing that. We're not going to look stupid like that. And I said, we're going to get proper gear and all that. And so all the guys went and got running shoes. We lived on those words that I fed them beginning of that year. During football season, we trained like it. We knew we wouldn't play them until track. We during baseball season, basketball season, all we did was think about that. We got the right gear. We trained. We got ready, and we went to Vinemont. And we went to Cullman for the Cullman Classic with all the county schools, and we destroyed Cullman. We took home number 1 in all the points, and I was 1 or number 2 in every single event, but I was not defeated by a single Cullman runner or field person, and I won gold medal in the high jump. The funny part about that was I won jumping 5'3", which in junior high that's considered really good, and that was 9th grade. And I jumped actually 5'4". The guy that was below me jumped 5'3", and the third place jumped 5'1", and not a single Cullman jumper, not one, jumped 5 feet. And I said to Coach, what's up with the 5 foot thing? I said, there's only 3 people today out of the 12 or 13 or whatever it was that jumped 5 foot today. And I won it with 5'3". and Joseph Sherrill, or with 5'4", Joseph Sherrill was 5'3", and a guy from Hansville was 5'1", and nobody from Cullman jumped 5 foot. So, why did you give me 5 foot as the the bar I had to leap over? Well, he didn't have much to say other than congratulations, because I just took the gold from him. And then I took the 400 gold from him, and had never run the 400, but took it from him and run a 57, which for a ninth grader is very fast, 57-second quarter mile. And then we just kept winning and winning and winning everything. The 4x100, 4x400, you're only allowed 5 in those days. Now I think it's 4. And then the only thing I made second place in was something I had never done before, which we didn't even have that at our school. We didn't even practice it, which was the hurdles. And they needed more people to do hurdles because most of the county schools at that time didn't even own hurdles. And so we didn't even do that. And so I had not practiced, didn't know the style, didn't know what you're supposed to do, nothing. They had enough to put together a heat, and so there was 8 of us out there running, and only one heat with 8 guys, and with terrible, no know-how, I ended up second place in the hurdles. The problem was I would run past everybody and get ahead of them, and then I would jump really high. I was used to high jumping. I didn't have any I didn't have any of the way you're supposed to do things, the technique. So I would jump super high, then they would catch up. Then I would outrun them, and then jump super high, then they would catch up because they were all doing the hurdles the right way, And I had no idea how to do it. And still, when I came across the last one and landed, I blew past everyone and almost caught the guy, but ended up second place. Got the silver medal, got gold and everything else, and we crushed them. And so then a couple of years later, and it continued that way every year. I ended up going to as a freshman, ended up making the senior, the varsity track team ended up making to the varsity state track meet every year. Never missed that. And so finally, I lost the desire, I remember, after the 11th grade because Coach Calvert was no longer coaching. He didn't coach varsity. So when he wasn't around, I didn't have a nemesis to fight against and want to defeat, and didn't care as much about it, and cared more about basketball and other stuff. And so, but then I will never forget, we were in the county tournament my senior year, and I was preparing to play, and I had had a good year, but the team had not had a good year, but I had had a good year, and that's when I found out, I thought Coach Calvert didn't care anything about me or think anything about me, but that's when I found out the truth. I was standing there, and I'll never forget it, watching 2 other teams play, getting ready to get back to the locker room ourselves. And he said, "Harrison." And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "You kept your word." He said, "You left and you came back and you whipped us." And he said, "Let me tell you something. You turned into an amazing athlete after you left this place." And I said, "Coach, I was already a good athlete." I said, "You just didn't see it, and they did." And he said, "Well, that might be the case. But at any rate, I just want to tell you, I've been watching your career, proud of you. You've done a great job." And I was like, wow. And it changed my perception of him completely. And I realized that when I looked back, and I even sent him a letter one day, because I looked back, and I can tell you that all the success I had in high school, and then afterwards, not just in men's sports, but as a coach for 18 years, coaching everything from girls softball to varsity boys basketball, varsity girls softball, varsity boys basketball, junior high, coaching every level of every kind of thing you can think about, from running to baseball to basketball to all of it. Looking back on it, I got to thinking about how he did all of his PE. And PE was actually very competitive. And in PE, he actually taught us technique. And in PE, he actually pushed us really hard. And I started realizing, you know what? Coach Calvert actually set the basis up for why I am the way I am. And him becoming a nemesis is the best thing he could have done. By saying, he never said you can't do it, but by not putting me on the teams and pushing me in that sense, he helped me become what I am. I never would have become an athlete the way that I did. and cared about it so much. And I got an opportunity as a coach to win 7 championships in 4 different sports. And so I can attribute that back to that competitive spirit that really was started there with him. And then thank God for Coach Smothers, Coach Cup, Coach Green, Coach Besley, those that put into me at Vinemont, that helped me to care and to become who I was as a coach later, as a player then. They took what wasn't seen, but was somewhat developed at Cullman, unknowingly, because he had a good PE program. That's the bottom line. He did. I give him credit for that. But those guys knew how to take the talent that they had and make something of it. We just didn't have a lot of it. We were little. And so I appreciate all those coaches. And I want to say I appreciate Coach Calvert. Because later in life, on multiple occasions, we got to talk, and especially at different track meets and stuff. And then before I left for Thailand, we got to talk, and he had a young guy. And he said, "Hey, come here." He said, "I want you to watch this technique. Tell me what you think about it." And we talked all about it and everything. And we gave each other, and I gave him some tips that I knew and stuff. And he said, "Oh, that's some good stuff." And it was amazing talking to him like colleague to colleague, And he said, "Well, you know what? I was telling him a little bit about my career in coaching." And he said, "Chris, if you were involved in it and it was sports related, you were good at it. That's all I have to say. So I know you must have been a good coach because you were a heck of a ball player." And then he said, "I heard about you moving to Thailand. Tell me about it." And I got to tell him, and he was very proud and all those things. And then I realized, some of the things that took me and got me where I am today, that gave me that competitive edge, that made me want to work hard and made me want to push through adversity and made me want to keep going when you feel like quitting and giving up and all those things. They were started in those PE classes at Cullman Middle School, and then they were completed through a series of different coaches and leaders and teachers in my life, and then later pastors and ministers that I looked up to that helped me to have that competitive edge to say, I'm never going to quit, I'm never going to give up. There's always a way. Failure's not an option. We can make it. All right, and so that's my stories. Lapita, she likes to call me Uncle Rico because I talk about old times too much. But I think it's fun telling those old stories. And if you didn't check it out earlier, these right here, over 100 years old. They were my great grandfathers. Catcher's mitt, look at that, and infielder's mitt. This right here has no padding, it hurts. This might as well be barehanded. I don't know how they play with this. This right here, you could throw a 100-mile-an-hour ball and you won't feel it. But the problem is it's really hard to squeeze and catch. It's almost impossible to catch. It's got to hit the pocket perfect and to catch it. So maybe you'll get a chance to do that sometime. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my stories. And they were stories meant to, first of all, reminisce about some fun times in my life. But second of all, to tell you, don't ever quit, If you're a young person, I had been cut from all the teams, even though I was good enough. But I was at a school that at the time, I'm not saying they're that way now or anything, because I don't think they are, but we lived back in the time in the 80s and 90s, when it was more about, who your parents were, that, certain people had to be on the team and things like that. And it's not like that now. And they've won championships. They've proved themselves in many ways. And of course, I became pro everybody in Cullman County when I coached, or when I pastored there. Pulled for all the teams. Vinemont's always had my heart, though, because they're the ones that gave a young guy a chance and then made me into something. So I hope you enjoyed those stories, because those are some of my favorite from middle, or I could say little league baseball all the way up to varsity track. And I got other stories where that come from. Maybe we'll tell sometime. All right, that's Tales from Bama with Chris Harrison. Thanks, guys.